So there seems to be a severe lack of mental toughness in young men today. Men in general, really, and even guys that are doing training and working out and using their bodies and trying to imbibe a sort of a masculine vitalism, but they still lack the mindset required to be tough, to grind it out. And when I'm talking about grinding it out, what I mean here is the ability to put your head down and work relentlessly. For whatever reason, guys seem to struggle to bring it out, right? To bring out that deep need to work, the experience of nothing else mattering except the task at hand. The grind is the ability to just work like a dog. So when I talk about the grind set, that mental toughness mindset, it brings to mind an archetype, the role of the grinder in hockey. And the grinder, he's a guy who just dumps and chases nonstop. He's a guy digging the puck out of the corner, throwing in his body no matter what. He's pure grit. Doesn't mean he lacks skill or anything. He just that he takes on the role of the workhorse and he gets dirty because he has to. And this is the kind of guy you want to be, or at least you want to be able to bring it out when necessary, because nobody likes playing against the grinder. He makes everyone work harder. He wears you out while refusing to be worn out himself. He might be outmatched on a one-to-one level, but even if he's beaten, he'll come back for rounds 2 and 3 and 4. He's the king of second efforts. So the grinder archetype has the grind set. We'll dive into what that actually is. It's the mentality of working until the job is done. He doesn't care how it's done, just that it gets done. When he dumps the puck into the corner, he's not caring about whether or not he dangled the fuck out of the defender. He's only concerned with getting the puck in the zone, doing the job. He's just doing whatever is necessary to get the play going. He doesn't care that after he dumps that puck in, he might have to take a big hit, because he knows he can handle it. He's got the mindset, the toughness to deal with those dirty corners. He's not fancy about how he gets the puck out. He just gets it out. He'll send it wherever it needs to go, front of the net, blue line, whatever. He doesn't care. He's just looking to set his team up for success. That's all that matters. There's no personal glory in this kind of work. There's no external validation. He just feeds off the grind. When you're working like this, you've got to be able to feed off the work itself and just love it. Now, there's a time for skilled work and there's a time for hard work. But skilled work, that should come after you've developed your ability for hard work. You see, every grinder can become a skilled player. That's not an issue. But if you're just a skilled player and you haven't developed that capacity for difficult work, you might not be able to become that grinder. If you just focus on skill first, you might not have the mental toughness. And you might only rely on your skills and never end up developing the mentality you need. Because when you base all your playing on refined techniques, you can only succeed when those techniques work. And when you're outmatched skill-wise, or when your techniques become outdated, then you have nothing to fall back on. Now, if you're the skilled player who has developed their capacity for work, you can always fall back on the grind set. But the player that only has skill but no grit, that guy has nothing. That guy is crushed in adversity. And see, if you know how to work, if you can grind your way out of most situations, then you can figure your way out through adversity. You can make it work. Like, when that grinder's down in the corner, he can just muscle his way out with the puck. He doesn't need stick skills or footwork to pull it off. He can just push himself to get out of the situation. In the same way, if you're stuck in the middle of nowhere because your car broke down, if you can just grind and trek 20, 30K to the nearest gas station for help, you can get yourself out of that situation. But it's just putting your head down and working, regardless of whether you have some skill or plan to work your way out of it. And the grind set, so it just doesn't only apply to physical work. It also applies to other areas of life. Say you're trying to write something, right? Sometimes it doesn't matter what you write, just that you get it down. And you can figure out the details later and work out the errors after the fact. Right? That in the same way, the grinder doesn't necessarily care how the puck gets in the zone. He just cares that it does get in the zone, and then he can figure out how to set the play up and make everything work when he gets there. So the key here is working regardless of whether or not you know you'll succeed. You don't have to have steps 1 to 10 of the plan laid out in perfect detail. But the work needs to get done, so you just have to do it. Right? You might not know whether or not your body can handle a difficult task at hand, but you do it anyways because you have to. It might also be true that a particular idea isn't fully developed, something that you want to do, but you're not quite sure how it's going to work out. You just have to go and enact it anyways. Right? You don't need a perfect plan in place. You just need to be able to work until you can figure it out. Now, you don't have to live your life in a 24/7 grind. There's very few of us that can be a grinder day and night. Now, there may be a time where you do need to embrace the grind set day and night, but a continuous grind isn't necessary. There is a time for skilled, thoughtful work. There's a time for rest. That's fine. A balance is necessary. So you don't have to be at it nonstop. But what is important is developing the ability to bring out the grind set in the moment that it's demanded. It's not about consciously choosing the right time, because if you have to think too much about it, then you're not going to get it when you need it. You're going to start hesitating and second guessing. You got to just be able to jump in mindlessly. So it's a more of an unconscious thing that comes out when the situation demands it. For example, loose balls down on the ground in a lacrosse game. You got two opponents barreling down on that ball, and you want it as well. You need to break it out. You know you need to pick that ball up and get it out of the zone, but you don't have time to sit there and think of a breakout strategy. You just need the ball. So you jump in, you toss your body in front of one guy, hack the other guy's stick out of the way, and then you grab that ball. And then you take hacks and cross checks as you're trying to get out of that double. You might get some low blows, you might get some dirty shots, cross check to the neck. Who cares? But the point is that you can't care about that stuff because it's about the ball and making your legs move, getting out of there. There's no thinking involved, and there's no time for panic in those situations. The entire time you're grinding, it's just calm. It's just the regular procedure. And then eventually, you're out on the other side, you've broken free from that double team, and you're moving the ball down the floor. You're seeing the new options. Maybe it's time to play smart again, make a good pass, make a good play. But through that whole situation, you just had to go about that work no matter what. Right? And it just had to come out in that moment. There wasn't any thinking to be done. Now, the trick here is the grind comes on as soon as that situation demands it. But then you also have to be able to shut it off when it's time for the smart play. A common mistake for grinders is to keep the grind rolling and then making forced errors. Now, it's better to make a forced error, make a mistake at 100% than to make it at 50%, not putting in enough effort. But we still want to avoid these mistakes if possible. You still want to grind when necessary and then be smart when it's time for that skilled play. So how do you develop this? And really the only way to develop this type of thinking, this mindset, is experience. It's entirely experience. It's not something that you can just read and learn. You've got to be in the trenches grinding it out. And you'll have to lose a lot before it sticks. You'll get beaten. You'll give up early, and you'll be too hesitant. All these things are going to happen. It's part of the process. But these tendencies will fade as you stick to the process, as you stick to building experience. And where do these come from? Well, they come from mostly physical competition and group activity. Sometimes school work, studying. That's going to allow you to develop some of those grinding habits. That's really all we have in the present world. And unfortunately, a lot of it's inadequate. Many of us miss out on this sort of competition and grind altogether. I mean, how often does school even require you to really sit down and grind hard anymore? So you're not even getting it from studying books, let alone how many guys are actually getting tough, grueling work from physical activity. Even those sports that allow that to happen, the bag skate, the bag conditioning, that stuff is being removed. It's slowly fading out. Even the physical contact, throwing the body, that's coming out of the sports as well. A lot of guys, a lot of young guys just aren't getting that. Even if they are playing the sports, it's getting removed, except at the highest levels. So there's an issue there where there are few areas to develop your experience, but you've got to be inspired. You have to find ways to get yourself into those situations. If you lack that grind set, you've got to make it happen. So whether you on your own go and you study hard, you read nonstop and force yourself to build this mental discipline to just drive at it, or whether you pick up some obscenely difficult training or you join a physically demanding sport. These are things that you can be doing to develop that on your own. The best way really is to work hard with other men. And that's going to come from sports. That's going to come from having guys that will encourage you to train hard. And competition really provides that social incentive to grind it out. When you have that competition bearing down on your back, ensuring that you have no other option but to work, that's where it's going to come from. So you have to find areas where you can develop this. So I would say join up a sport, join up some sort of activity. And if you can't, if there's nothing available, then you just got to make it work some other way. It can even just be marching up and down stairs for an hour straight, doing a grueling hike up a mountain. Like if you can handle 6 hours of hiking straight, that's another example. But whatever it is, it has to force you to just put your head down, shut off all your thinking, and rip right through it. You got to become that grinder. You got to learn how to bring that out of you when the situation demands it. Because it's not enough just to be physically strong. It's even more important to be mentally tough. It's important to work at that next level, work at that grinder state. So developing that, you just have to make it a routine where it just comes out when necessary. When the job at hand demands the grind, when the opportunity presents itself, you just take it out. And it requires work, but it is necessary work. So get after it. See ya.